Welcome to Off the Shelf Book Talk with Book Lovers. I'm Elizabeth Nelson here with Kay Johnson, back from our 3-month hiatus COVID break. So as you can see, we're trying something new. We're outside and we're back together, which is nice.
And we're doing some social distancing.
Yes.
Maybe not quite 6 feet.
It's okay. We could have turned the table the other way, I suppose, but
we should have masks.
Oh well. What have you been reading?
Well, I have been reading a lot. You know, that was the great thing about being the stay-at-home orders. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, we were ordered by the governor to stay home. And what was I supposed to do? Read, of course. So I was like good with that. Plus, I was working at home. Mm-hmm. I've been working at home since March. So, yeah, it definitely has been interesting.
Yes.
But the first books I'm going to talk about, which you can join in, mm-hmm. is John Grissom's Camino Island and Camino Winds.
Yes.
And it's a new series he started. I used to be a big Grissom fan, and then I got tired of the legal thrillers. Mm-hmm. And then somewhere I found Camino Island, and I started reading it, and I really liked it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really liked it too. I listened to the audiobook of both of them.
Okay.
Because audiobooks are easy when you have a 3-year-old stuck in a house. You can just turn it on and chase him around while he plays. But do you want to explain a little bit about what it's about?
Sure, I can. Camino Island is in Florida, and it's about a guy, and do you remember his name?
No. The girl's name is...
Man.
What?
Man.
It's not Man.
No, that's your last name.
Well, yeah, but Mercer is her first name.
Mercer Mann.
Yeah, I don't remember what his name is, though, but he owns a bookstore, Bay Books.
Yeah, and he got into books, which is interesting. When he went to go through his father's things after his dad had died, he found some first editions, and rather than sharing them with his sister, he slid them into his box, and off he went, and it kind of launched his interest in books, and he ended up going around the country looking at bookstores and then opening one up in Florida. And then the book starts with a robbery. A group of 5 guys, sort of, they seem like they know what they're doing, but then they ultimately end up to be kind of inept. But they stole the original manuscripts of F. Scott Fitzgerald's books that were at the Yale Library. And so the FBI and all sorts of people are on the hunt for these because they're insured for, what, $25 million?
About, yeah, I think so.
And the insurance company doesn't want to pay off. So they, everybody ends up in Florida because they think the bookstore owners got the books. And so the insurance company convinces Mercer Mann, who's actually an author, who's having writer's block, but has a connection to the island, to go undercover to try and sniff out these manuscripts. And it gets really complicated, and there's lots of twists, but it's got a great ending.
The thing I really liked is there's this group of authors that all get together. So you have like the legal thriller writer, and you have this couple that are sort of retired but wrote a whole bunch of like 50 Shades of Grey like books, and they're all getting together, which I think is interesting.
Yes.
And then the second book, which is Camino Winds, is the same cast of characters, but this time there is a hurricane on the island and someone is murdered.
Yeah, and if you like atmospheric mysteries, this is a good one because the wind howls and the rain comes and the trees are smashed, but it's an interesting. The mystery is one of their friends who's an author gets killed, actually murdered.
Yes.
And they can't quite figure out why, and they have to kind of unravel the mystery and then solve it.
During a hurricane cover-up.
Well, yeah.
Or the cleanup following a hurricane.
But it's good. The only thing is it's kind of an involved plot, so you kind of have to plod through some explanation, and that gets kind of tedious. But beyond that, I thought it was good.
And with the audiobooks, there are 2 different narrators, and I think it's because the first book was from Mercer's point of view, and then the second book is from his point of view. So I think that's why they switched to a man, but the gentleman reads with a very heavy southern accent for Florida. I didn't notice Florida had such a deep Southern accent.
Did you mind it?
Once I got used to it, I could kind of tone it out. But at the beginning, it was like, I don't remember him sounding this way last time, and so it kind of caught me off guard. But then once I got used to it, it was easier for me to get into. So
I would say that the first book, Camino Island, is lighter
yeah,
than the second book, but they're both good, and it's although there's legal stuff in it, they're not quite like some of his other books. So I would recommend it.
It'll be interesting to. Do you know if he's continuing?
I hope so.
I haven't heard anything, so that's why I was wondering if you had.
No, he's probably got contracts for books for till
till he dies.
next century. Yeah,
that's true.
Well, we'll have to check that out, and then we'll report in a future issue if we hear anything.
We will. Definitely. I did not read as much as you have, but I have a 3-year-old at home, which leaves less reading time, and I've spent part of the quarantine dealing with the joys of pregnancy. So not as much reading for me, but I do have a few things I've read. So one I finished was The Silent Patient.
Oh, that's a big one on the top seller.
Yeah, Alex Michaelides? Okay. I don't know. I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sure. But Becca and Nana recommended this one. They both really liked it. And the premise behind this book is that a woman killed her husband and then hasn't spoken for, I think it's 5 years. Is it 5 years, I think? And a new psychiatrist comes into the hospital and is going to be the one that gets her to talk. And so the book sort of follows through him trying to get her to open up. And there is a real interesting twist that I didn't really see coming. I had to ask Nana if how I thought the book ended, if that's what actually happened. And she said, well, yes, didn't you get that? And I was like, no, I didn't. But I thought it was interesting. It's always interesting to me, the books that get like the big hype on like Facebook, because sometimes it's like I don't get it, and other times it's like, yeah, you were right, this book I can see. But it was interesting. Like I said, the twist was, I didn't really see it coming, and it took me a second once it got there to be like, okay, now I understand what's been going on the last 100 and some pages. But I don't think I liked it as much as Nana did. But
would you recommend it?
I think it's a quick, easy read, really, and it's nice for summer. So yeah, I mean, I think people would, if you like the thriller genre, you're gonna enjoy it. So, but I don't know if it's not one I would keep and read again, I guess. But I'm not super into those, as I'm discovering as I try to read more and more of them that pop up on Facebook. So.
Well, I've been going back and reading old favorites. And I think part of it was because I already had the books. I didn't have to like hunt out for them.
Yeah.
You know, but with the library being closed, now you can do curbside pickup, so you can have access. But
yeah, it's so nice.
For quite a while, you couldn't unless you did digital and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but among my favorites is one called Amie, Come Home by Barbara Michaels.
I still haven't read that one.
Oh, it's such a great book.
I know, everybody keeps telling me to read it, and I haven't.
It's an interesting book because it's Barbara Michaels has written tons of books. She did the Vicki Bliss series. She did the Amelia Peabody series. She's done some standalones. She's just a wonderful writer of mysteries and does a great job with characters. And Amie Come Home happens to be almost a standalone, but there is a sequel to it that isn't exactly a sequel, but sort of. But Amie Come Home takes place in Georgetown, and Ruth works for the government, and she's in her 50s, and she's neat and tidy, and she inherited this incredibly great house from a distant relative, and her niece has come to stay with her to go to Georgetown and work on a master's degree. And her niece is long hair and mini skirts, and she has a boyfriend, and so we're just plodding along, and one night Ruth wakes up and hears someone calling, Amie, come home. And she thinks it must be a neighbor looking for a lost pet. But of course it's a dignified neighborhood and nobody has the animal named Amie, nor would they call and be rude in the middle of the night. And then one night Ruth finds her niece sleepwalking. And then one night the niece brings home a professor who likes Ruth. And now there's the boyfriend and the niece and Ruth and the professor. And anyway, they start looking into this Amie thing, and they don't know, they think the house is haunted.
Okay.
And so it goes from there to try and figure out who's haunting it. Is the niece really being possessed, or is she schizophrenic, or is there some mental health issues? It's really good. I bet I've read it 15 times.
Well, you'll have to send it to me.
I just bought the digital version not too long ago. I have the soft cover and the digital, but
I know I've heard you guys talking about that over the years, like growing up. You guys talked about reading it, and I always got confused when I was little about the name because Nana's dog was named Amie.
And we named her after the book.
So, well, that makes sense now that I think about it, but back then I was always like, why are we looking for the dog when it's right there? But
it's a good book, and you can get it at the library.
Okay.
And it's available digitally, like in an ebook, and probably hardcover too.
Okay.
But it's a great book, and I just highly recommend it.
Okay. Cool.
So
let's see, what else have I read? Another quick read I did. The book is called Midnight at the Bright Ideas Bookstore, and this one's by Matthew J. Sullivan. And this book, the main character, I can't remember her first name, but she works at a 24-hour bookstore called Bright Ideas, and they have a bunch of regulars that come in and are just kind of always there, and are just always kind of lurking in the store. And one night when she's working, one of them commits suicide.
In the bookstore?
In the bookstore. And so she goes up, and as she's checking on him, she finds in his pocket a picture of her when she's a little girl. So this starts, the spiral into the story of how he has this picture of her and where it came from. And it turns out that she is the only survivor. She was staying the night at a friend's house, and someone came in and murdered the parents and the friend, but not her, because she was hiding under the sink. And so then she took off, and so he was never caught. And so it's kind of how everything ties back together from when she was a child into this current suicide. It was good. It was a quick read. It was interesting how the author wrapped everything up, but again, I think this might have been a situation where the bow wrapped up just a little too nicely. I don't know if I quite believe it would work out that well in real life, but
it won't, but who cares?
But I mean, it was a nice quick read. It did, there was a part where they had, she talks about he left kind of a code inside of books with cutting stuff out, so she had to kind of a codex matching up books to figure out what messages he was leaving her, and that was interesting. And so in the book, the pages are matched what would have been uncovered in the actual book.
Okay.
So that was interesting, and I did, like I said, I enjoyed it, but there are some times where books wrap up and you're like, that's a little too pretty of a bow for how this finished up. So, but I did like it. Like I said, it was a quick read, and I got that online from one of my book groups. That was a quick sale on it, so it was interesting.
Well,
I also discovered, going through my bookshelf to read that one, exactly how many books I have that take place in bookstores, libraries, antique stores. It's like a whole section of my shelf that's these books that all relate to like a bookstore or a gallery or and it's just like, okay, this is a whole section of its own.
I like atmospheric mysteries. So I did a Google search and looked for cozy mysteries that take place during a blizzard.
Oh.
And I can tell you that Mystery in White by J. Jefferson Farjion is great. It's an old mystery from maybe the 20s or 30s, but it is just great. It's about a group of people who, they're on a train and they're all in a carriage, car together, and the train gets stuck in the blizzard.
Oh, okay.
And they decide that they're going to leave and walk to another station that's fairly close to catch the train, a different train. Well, they end up getting lost in the blizzard, and they find themselves in a house. And this house, the front door's unlocked, the kettle's boiling for tea, fire's burning in the fireplaces, And, you know, they're all looking at each other trying to figure out what the deal is with this. And then, of course, there's a picture above the fireplace that makes of a guy who looks like he's staring at them. But it's a great twist about how this comes around to the mystery and how it ties into the train and all this kinds of stuff. So I really recommend it. I mean, Mystery in White.
Mystery in White, okay.
Another one I found was Murder at Midnight and Christmas is Murder. And they're in the Rex Graves series of mysteries, and they're by a writer named C.S. Challoner.
Okay.
But these are great. These are hardcore blizzards in Scotland. And, of course, someone gets murdered, and Rex Graves is a lawyer, or like a prosecuting attorney. And so he fancies himself to solve these mysteries. So those are good. And another one is Murder for Christmas by Francis Duncan, and the protagonist there is Mordecai Tremaine. And he's an amateur detective. Okay. And so he's, of course, at a house party, an English house party. You know, these people come in, they stay, you know, and then someone, of course, gets murdered, and they've got to figure it out. But they're all great, and there's great blizzards. I mean, I want a serious blizzard. I don't want any of these, like, just boring blizzards.
I was going to say, were you just really warm with being stuck at home and you needed the cold,
I don't know. I think
air?
I just like the, well, you know, no, it was more like burrowing in blankets and wrapping up and reading and enjoying the,
the atmosphere.
Yeah, the atmosphere.
Yeah, it would be nice to be able to sit and just read, but I can only really do that when Alex is asleep, because otherwise he tends to sneak up and just slowly, while looking at me, take the bookmarks out from across the room. Like, he'll go buy the books and he'll just go.
And then
drop it, and it's like, really? I was at least halfway through that book, and then you get to sit there and flip and be like, do any of these words look familiar?
Well, I don't have that problem, so I can pretty much pick them up.
I can send Alex over, and he can help you with it.
Well, you know, I'm always reading on my Kindle,
That's
so
true.
He really can't.
He would have to push buttons. Well, he could push buttons. The kid's very smart at buttons. But as you were saying with the curbside pickup, we went to our library in Cokato, and because I had to pick up a book I had on hold, and I just said, I have a 3.5-year-old in the car who needs new books. And so she just said, well, what does he like? And put together 6 different kids books for him. And she sent out all this stuff for their summer reading program, which was nice too. But he was just like, new books, new books. And I was like, thank you.
Well, that's how I felt.
He'll be placated for at least the afternoon.
I have to say, there's nothing greater than a Kindle and an internet connection, because the world of books is at my feet.
Well, and that was, I mean, the one book I picked up, I put that, I think I went on hold for that in January, and I'd only been like the 5th person in line for it, but because of everything being shut down, and then a lot of libraries, there's like a 60-some day hold once books come back that they have to sit there. So it took a while, and I was just about giving up hope that I was going to get to pick this book up when it finally showed up. And I was like, yeah, I have to go downtown right now and pick this up once the library opens. We'll leave the house.
Yes.
It'll be great. Yeah. Even though we can't, and Alex wanted to go in the library. It's like, well, we can't go in the library, but we can get books. And he didn't quite understand that. He was not very happy that he couldn't go inside, so.
Well, another series of books that I read while I was in lockdown was Lawrence Sanders. Lawrence Sanders does great books. He does the McNally series. He does the First Deadly Sin series. He did the Commandment series. Okay. And there's the 7th Commandment, the 8th Commandment, and the 10th Commandment. I think there might be a 6th commandment too, but I don't know why he didn't do
1,
like,
2, 3.
No.
not like John Patterson, who's done like 1 to 20 something right now.
Commandments and the crimes committed, I bet.
Oh,
I'll have to check that out.
Report back.
But the 7th commandment is about a gal who's an insurance investigator. Okay. And so she's checking out an insurance fraud, and that's a good one. These are all really great. Mm-hmm. The 8th one is about a gal who works at an auction house evaluating stamps. And a stamp gets stolen. And so she ends up
That does not sound like a fun job. I'm sorry.
Well, these are $1 million stamps she was
True.
dealing with. And anyway, one gets stolen, and of course she gets put on leave because they can't have her working. And so there's a hot insurance investigator and a interesting cop, and they both like her. And so we have a little romantic episode in the whole thing.
Nice.
But it's good. And then the 10th commandment is the protagonist is a guy named Joshua Big. And he's only like 5'3". And he works for a law firm doing investigations. And anyway, he was hired because he was shorter than one of the partners. And he feels that life is really unfair that he has a name Joshua Big, being short. But he said it's a real asset to be short because tall women like you. So it wasn't all drawbacks. But in this one, he is trying to figure out a man commits suicide, and they don't believe he really did. And so he's got to figure out what happened. And this too has a little bit of romance, but they're good. They're just well done, well written, good stories, great characters. You know, just I highly recommend them. And it was fun reading them again. And I thought, oh, I really like these.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we will go ahead and wrap it up for this week. If you want to reach out to us, we're on Facebook. You can send us an email at offtheshelfbooktalk@gmail.com. And we will see you next time.